Hi there and welcome back. This is the third video in the Test First development series. And in this one, we're going to set up our interfaces within our coffee shop library. Now, if you haven't watched the first two videos, please go back and do that and make sure you've followed the steps so that you're starting at the same point as we are here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this class. I'm going to just click rename and I'm going to call it coffee shop. And I will let it auto rename my class over here. So we're going to create the programmatic interface for our coffee shop. And I'm going to keep it really simple. This is not meant to be very realistic. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to just define an enumeration called order status. And let's say we have three statuses for our orders. So pending, completed, and canceled. And now let's also create a little data class called coffee order. And we'll say that each coffee order has an order number. And each coffee order has an order status. I'm going to do a little copy paste work here to make this a little faster. And let's say that each order has an order date. And we're going to keep it simple. So public string drink name. And why don't we just leave it at that? Now, because strings are nullable, the way I have this set up, I'm going to initialize this to a blank string, and that'll quiet down that compiler warning. It can also prevent certain errors. So we have our order status, our coffee order, kind of data transfer object. It's just data. And now we're going to make this a static class called coffee shop. And let's do public coffee order place order. So this is a function where the user can pass in a requested coffee order, and if it works, they're going to get back the coffee order. Presumably the things like the order number and the order date are set by the system. So that'll come back to the user. And now here's the first really interesting thing you're going to see me do. I'm going to implement this function like this. Just going to throw an exception. I'm actually not going to take the time to write the implementation code. Remember, this is test first development. And the idea is we're going to write our tests first. Well, you actually have to do the interface. That's the very first thing, but we're not going to implement these. And how about this? Public coffee order get order status. And we can pass in an order ID and we can get our order, or maybe just get order. In fact, why don't we do it as this? Get order status. And that's just going to return the order status. And once again, I'm going to throw and these need to be static. I'm so sorry. I'm going to throw an exception and not take the time to implement it. And then let's do one more, public static void cancel order. All right, so this is a very simple coffee shop. And what we've done here is we've defined the interface for the application. Now, you may know that C# has formal interface types. That's not what I'm talking about here, though there is a conceptual similarity. When I say interface here, what I'm talking about is this is the data and methods that define the application. So if you have written REST APIs, you understand that there are these kind of implicit JSON data transfer objects and the endpoints that define the application. That's the interface of your REST API, or maybe you've done some SOAP work, or even WCF, which would call these data contracts. and would call these, I think they were called method contracts. But really, this is just that's a good way to think of it. It's a contract. This describes what our application can do. It doesn't implement it yet. We'll take care of that, but it describes the interface. So that is the very first thing you need to do when doing test-driven development, is set up the interface, define the data structures, and just put that in place. So I'll pause there. I'll give you a chance to work this out and make sure it works. So I guess I should build it. Let's just build it, make sure I don't have a silly typo. And it works. Okay, so that was the first step, setting up the interface.